In the last 1 week, you've probably been wondering, why is an entire organized ecosystem of journalists, of academics, of fact-checkers, of commentariat, of columnists, both in India and the West, been meticulously denying that Hindus are being attacked in Bangladesh? What is so volatile about admitting that minorities have been attacked and are under threat? Never mind the numbers, we'll come to that in just a moment. But why is it that there has been this blanket denial for a whole week that nothing has happened, kuch nahi hua, Hindus are safe in Bangladesh? Almost like a public relations toolkit. Well, they've been denying it for 1 week, but now they are waking up. Thanks in part to India Today's reportage from the ground, as well as the undeniable reports by a team of brave reporters who've entered Bangladesh to reveal a truth that the Indian ecosystem, the Kuch Nahi Hua Brigade, as I call it, as well as a vast Western press, have been spending 1 week almost totally denying or completely playing down. But why do they deny it, you're wondering? What is this impulse? What do they gain by saying that Hindus are totally safe in chaotic Bangladesh? What is the advantage to this ecosystem? Ask yourself this question, and I've been asking myself this for a long time, viewer. Does this brigade, this Kuch Nahi Hua Brigade, apply the same standards when any minorities whatsoever, are being attacked in any other part of the world? Just think about that for a moment. They say this is right-wing agenda. This is the agenda of rabid, bigoted reporters and agenda setters to make it seem like Hindus are under attack in Bangladesh. Are these agenda GVs basically saying that all these thousands of people protesting in the heart of Dhaka, where it is dangerous, are all of these people also part of an agenda to paint Bangladesh as anti-Hindu? Are they also people who are stupid enough to leave their homes, hold up these placards saying Hindu lives matter, save Bangladeshi Hindus? Are these people all idiots? What about reporters on the ground like my colleague, India Today's Ashutosh Mishra? He's been going into the Jamaat bastions where he's been reporting routinely on the attacks. Now, whenever these reports come out, these agenda GVs, this Kuch Nahi Hua Brigade say, oh, but you are playing up the violence. You are making it seem like there is a pogrom going on, whereas there is only a handful of attacks. We don't know that yet because there are not enough people on the ground reporting the attacks. But the goalpost has already very sinisterly shifted from Kuch Nahi Hua to Utna Nahi Hua. This agenda brigade, let me be very clear, viewer, is only waking up now after the heat over these attacks has become simply too much to ignore. So many of these people who've been shooting from the hip, talking about Gaza, which they have every right to do and should be doing, because suffering anywhere in the world is something that people should be speaking out. But somehow for 1 week, this Kuch Nahi Hua Brigade has been totally allergic to the idea of talking about the possibility that Hindu minorities in Bangladesh are under attack. Why this allergy? What is with this allergy to talking about the suffering of Hindus? We're not talking about the Hindus here, we're talking about the Hindus in Bangladesh who are a minority. Well, this agenda brigade, which is allergic and averse to the idea of telling the stories of minorities under attack anywhere else but in India, have also been very cleverly and insidiously cherry-picking students in Bangladesh and getting them to say, Kuch Nahi Hua, the Indian media is painting it like this. Oh, really? Is that why now suddenly 1 week after everything collapsed in Bangladesh, you have the left, you have the CPM, you have Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, you have actors, all of them now suddenly coming out tentatively to put their placeholder statements saying, yes, minorities are under attack. Very earnestly, they are now admitting, yes, you are right. Minorities are under attack in Bangladesh. What were they doing for 1 week? Either actively indulging in the propaganda that Kuch Nahi Hua, or carefully being silent and pretending like that is the gospel truth. They say there is an agenda to legitimize attacks on Muslims in India. They say that the right wing, the so-called right wing in India is spreading rumors about the scale of attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh because they want to justify attacks on Muslims in India. For the last 1 week, I ask you, viewer, because these images are there for everyone to see, I am really wondering, I am honestly wondering out aloud, this is not a rhetorical question, what attacks on Muslims in India in light of what's happened in Bangladesh? Why is it so difficult to simply say or admit or acknowledge that minorities in Bangladesh, in this case Hindus and others, have been attacked in light of what is taking place? Because there is without a doubt that the Jamaat and other radical elements are part of the new powers that be in Bangladesh. Why this allergy to admit that Hindus can also suffer? It goes down to a much more deep-rooted allergy that you and I both know about. These fact deniers, in my view, have proven as messed up, as terrible, as cowardly as fake news spreaders. They don't care about Hindus or Muslims, viewer. That is the bottom line. Because let me be very clear about one thing. Hindus and Muslims have suffered. In Bangladesh, after the implosion, both Hindus and Muslims have suffered. Enemies, political enemies, people who don't agree with your views, they've been under attack. Does that in any way belittle or take away from the fact that minorities are also under attack? How does that change the facts on the ground? I'll end by saying the truth is this. The agenda givers, these people who want you to believe for 1 week that nothing has happened and are now very quietly tiptoeing to the proposition that, okay, maybe something has happened, to now saying, yes, something has happened, to some even condemning what has happened. Let me be very clear with you. They don't care about Hindus or Muslims. They only care about their agenda.
A nation grappling with a violent regime change and the deadly aftermath. Which has seen orgy of violence sweeping through Bangladesh. Its minority Hindu population facing deadly attacks, arson, assault and murder. India Today reached Jamaat stronghold Meherpur, where the local ISKCON temple was burnt. Holy book of Bhagavad Gita burnt, idols smashed and charred. Portraits of deities vandalized. The survivors narrate stories of horror.
अभी आप जो देख रहे हैं, ये पूरी इमारत जलकर राख हो गई है और यहाँ पर आप जो देख पा रहे हैं सब कुछ जला दिया गया है। ये हिंसा के निशान हैं, सब कुछ जलकर खाक हो चुका है और जैसे जैसे आप आगे जाते हैं, ये देखिए यहाँ पर आगजनी देख पा रहे हैं। इसमें साज सामान है, मंदिर में पूजा पाठ के लिए जिन भी वस्तुओं का इस्तेमाल होता है वो सब कुछ तोड़ी फोड़ी गई हैं और बाकी चीज़ें जलाकर राख कर दी गई हैं।
5 तारीख के पहले जो 5 बजे लगभग 5 से 5:30 बजे इधर से वो लोग आक्रमण पहले शुरू किया। आप देखते हैं इधर जो ईंट जो स्टोन और पेट्रोल का बम है वो निक्षेप करने के लगा।
पेट्रोल बम लेकर के आए थे।
पेट्रोल बम, गोला बारूद, बहुत कुछ कॉकटेल भी, ग्रेनेड भी के लेके आया हमारा जो मंदिर तोड़ने के लिए, ढंग से करने के लिए। इसके बाद हम मंदिर पे लगभग 16 आदमी थे मंदिर पे।
एक बांग्लादेशी हिंदू, और देखिए सब कुछ जला दिया गया है। कमरे के भीतर हम हैं।
Similar ghastly attacks were witnessed by members of the local Hindu community.
What you see right behind me is a property, literally, a well-doing family, lawyer for 5 generations, Mr. Bhattacharya. The family was in Japan, and the mob, right after burning the temple, vandalizing the temple, they came here in the property and they burned down everything. All I see, the family members here, the holy Bhagavad Gita, the religious book that I see in my hand. You see, the things have been literally, this is how they literally targeted the Hindu families. There have been loot, there have been destruction of the properties, and these images are the documentary evidence that in remote areas, all we see only the reports from Dhaka. In fact, the Western media also saying everything about Dhaka remains calm, the situation is restoring to normalcy. But it was not only limited to Dhaka as far as the violence in engaging in atrocities against the minorities are concerned. Largely it happened in the remote areas. So you go to west, you go to south of Bangladesh, you go to northwest of Bangladesh, so all these places. And remember, there are often advisors, if you speak to the people, they will always say that probably it could not be safe for a media persons to go and report from these areas. We travel literally 275 kilometers to reach to this place and bring you these reports that how, the violence and the properties were looted.
The cops who should save the minorities are themselves vulnerable. It has now been left to the army to shield cops.
India today is at ground zero in Bangladesh, and as I travel towards the bordering areas where the situation remains to be tensed, the most concerning image that I see, the police and police station being protected by the Bangladeshi army. Right behind me you see there's a police station, the Meherpur police station, and right here is the headquarters. So the Meherpur police headquarters, where eventually the police personals are not locked, but they cannot go outside. Ever since the violence started, the police personnel also fear threat to their life. But what I see here is a police station, and the police forces are being guarded and protected by the Bangladeshi army.
Hindus in Bangladesh are now hitting the streets, staging protests in multiple Bangladesh cities against a genocidal attack which has been ignored by the global community. With Ashutosh Mishra in Meherpur, Bangladesh, Bureau Report, India Today.
And take a look at this piece of breaking news. Hindus are continuing to hit the streets in Bangladesh. Remember, Hindus now are in Dhaka and other cities in huge numbers. Protests are continuing against attacks on minorities. Thousands are now marching in Bangladesh's Gopalganj. These are images from Gopalganj in Bangladesh, where huge protests are continuing in this state. The Hindu minority say that they've been under attack. They say the scale of the attacks are not being faithfully reported, are not reaching the outside world. These are people who say they are being persecuted. This comes on a day when the new interior minister of Bangladesh has even apologized to minority Hindus in Bangladesh. Let's go straight across to India today. It's Ashutosh Mishra, who's been reporting very bravely from the ground in Dhaka, in Meherpur, in Gopalganj, in Khulna, in all parts of Bangladesh, including the Jamaat strongholds where attacks have taken place on Hindus. Ashu, it is because of your reportage from the ground in Bangladesh over the last 2 to 3 days that many people have been forced to break their silence on the attacks on minorities in Bangladesh. You have seen it firsthand. You have been to places that the Western media is simply refusing to report on. And now we are seeing these images from Gopalganj as well.
Well, Shiva, when I reached Meherpur this morning, so we traveled nearly 275 kilometers. And before coming here, almost every person advised us not to venture out. That happens to be the Jamaat-e-Islami Bastion area, several radical elements. So probably it could be trouble for the media persons. And I was the first journalist, not even a single global media or any individual, even the local media, did not even try to reach out to that area, and that remains Meherpur one of the worst affected. So we were literally alien for all of those people who were literally, venturing around that who are these people, how they have come here. But then the magnitude, all I saw the ISKCON temple, then there is another influential Hindu's house which was burned. Of course, he had a close links with the Awami League party. So at one certain points, we cannot also deny that there have been people, including Hindu communities, who have been close to Awami Leagues, where also came under attack. But at large, what about the temples? The temples are not influenced by political parties. They looted nearly 10 lakh Bangladeshi taka. Even there were jewelries which were donated for the Lord Jagannath that were also looted. The police station you saw in the report have literally where the police persons are hiding as being guarded by the Bangladeshi military and the paramilitary forces. As we speak, there is a protest, and we are also playing out those images on the screen. There is a massive protest happening in Gopalganj. Yesterday there was a protest in Khulna, and last couple of days I have been covering the Hindu protest in Dhaka. So clearly the world, which has been in a denial that indeed there have been attacks on the Hindus, clearly these are the on India Today. These are the documentary evidence which no one can deny that there have been attacks. There have been attacks on the night of 5th of August, on the 6th of August. I can also say for last 72 hours, situation is getting restored normalcy. There have not been attacks. But once they have seen the magnitude of this kind of violence on the minorities, particularly by the anti-social elements, by the radical extremist element, it brings a sense of fear. And all I see, there is a sense of fear in these areas. For example, you see the protest happening in Gopalganj. That's an urban pocket where you see these images. There is a protest in Khulna, where I am at the moment. That was also an urban pocket. In Dhaka, it's a capital city. But there are Hindus who are living in fear in places like near the Kuch Bihar border or the Meherpur, where I visited this morning. They are not even able to come out on the road because they have no support there. They are very few in number, barely 7,000 across the district. How will they mobilize their support? They know there is no media person, there is no global media, looking at them or ready to hear their voices. So on those, the remote areas, the situation remains very grim. There is a sense of fear, there is a sense of tension. However, there are also some people from the Muslim community and others who are now coming out to protect, to give some assurance. But the point is, there is no law and order machinery, and the magnitude of this violence can only be unearthed when there is a full-fledged investigation, which will be can only be ordered by a full-fledged government. There is an interim government, and for now their priority is to bring the situation to normal. There is not even a policeman on the roads. So in that case, there are a lot of questions are still need to be answered as and when there is a new government, as and when the law and order machinery back on track. But there cannot be any denial that these incidents have happened, and what we are bringing is nothing but the ground reality, nothing over exaggeration, all factual reports, all documentary evidence through these videos.
And the scary thing, Ashu, that you're talking about is you even sent us images of the army protecting police stations, which basically means there is no law and order machinery in Bangladesh right now. So whatever attacks are taking place, nobody even has eyes on them. So the scary truth is you've brought us some facts from the ground, in the hinterland of Bangladesh, but there may be many, many attacks which nobody even knows about just yet. The Interior Minister of Bangladesh has issued a statement apologizing to minorities and assuring them of safety, but that's not being seen on the ground just yet. Locals in Bangladesh, Muslims and others have come out to protect their neighbors and friends. But when the political system is endorsing this kind of persecution, that explains the fear that you have been seeing in village after village, Ashu.
Well, the point is the advisor to the Home Department, who is also a former army person, who has been at a brigadier rank, apologies for all these incidents happen, that will also give some, as we call it, ghao pe malam lagana. But the point is the magnitude cannot be unearthed unless there is an investigation. And who are the investigative agencies? Exactly the police. They themselves are hiding. They are even protesting at the police headquarters. Police stations are totally deserted. Even there have been vandalizing and the, storming the mob in the police stations as well. So on that terms, clearly, now what I see, even we are reporting the fact that yes, there are Muslim community have been coming out. But imagine the horror of that night of 5th of August and 6th of August when all this was happening. No one was there to protect them, no one was there to listen to them. Many left their houses, many fled, taking shelter here and there. I also know that many of the Muslim members also sheltered Hindu community members, and one of them from a nearby district, I cannot disclose his identity, that will be a threat to his life. Even his house was vandalized and his bike was burned, his house was burned just because he protected someone. So on that terms, this situation is really grim. And for now, what is needed? Investigation can wait. But until and unless you assure safety and security, and that's exactly what the Hindu youth and different groups are demanding, carrying out a protest. The justice and assurance can wait. But for now, at least ensure protection to us. And how you can do that? Wherever there is a Hindu minority area or the people are living, send at least army or the paramilitary, send the police personnel and have a dialogue with them. Let your, the shadow cabinet of this advisory committee, let them go and talk. Have a conversation, because until unless you maintain the faith and trust and restore, win the confidence of the community, because even they are in the minority community, they are your own citizen. And it is the fundamental duty of a government to protect your civilians, which I don't see happening at this moment in Bangladesh.
It's the really scary thing that Ashutosh is reporting, is that the law and order machinery doesn't exist because it's an interim government. You've got a situation after this civil war uprising where the army is protecting police stations. Can you imagine? The army is protecting police stations from miscreants and vandals and thugs who are very much part of this entire uprising, people being painted as revolutionaries by many influencers here in the country. Ashu, stay safe, my friend. We will keep coming back to you. Remember that Ashutosh's full report from the hinterland in Bangladesh, bringing out the truth, plays out through prime time here on India Today. We've got some breaking news coming in now. And Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi Vadra has spoken out, becoming the latest person of prominence to speak out against targeted attacks on minority Hindus in Bangladesh. She says the reports of continued attacks on minorities in neighboring Bangladesh are disturbing. Discrimination, violence and attacks on basis of religion, caste, language or identity are unacceptable in any civilized society. We hope that the situation in Bangladesh will soon return to normal and the newly elected government there will ensure security and respect for people following Hindu, Christian and Buddhist religions. There's, of course, one little error there. It is not the newly elected government. This is a dispensation that has been installed after a popular uprising that threw out an elected government, even if there are reports that it was a rigged election based on it. But this is most definitely not a newly elected government, and that chaos continues. But Priyanka Gandhi Vadra speaking out there against targeted attacks on minorities. Like Ashutosh just told us, Bangladesh is on the edge amidst a surge of attacks on minority populations in the country, Hindus, Buddhists and Christians. After more reports of vandalism in Hindu temples where the Gita was burnt and idols smashed, the Bangladesh Home Affairs Minister Advisor S. Hussain has issued an apology to the Hindu community for not being able to protect them. He said that it is the duty of the Muslim majority to protect the Hindu minority. He assured the community of future protection and assured them of improvement in the system.
এটা প্রত্যেকটি নাগরিকের কর্তব্য to see যে মাইনরিটি বা আমরা যাদেরকে মাইনরিটি বলি সংখ্যালঘু সম্প্রদায়ের গায়ে হাত যেন না পড়ে। মেজরিটি যারা আছে, যারা মেজরিটি রিলিজিয়ন, এটা তাদের একান্ত পবিত্র কর্তব্য। আপনারা যদি না করেন, এই মসজিদে গিয়ে সারাক্ষণ নামাজ পড়েন, এটার হিসাব আপনাকেও দিতে হবে। আমি আশা করি আমার মাইনরিটি ভাইদের, আমি মাপ চাই আপনাদের হাতে, মাপ। কারণ একটা বিশৃঙ্খলার মধ্যে দিয়ে আমরা এখনও যাচ্ছি। আমরা আপনাদেরকে কিছু কিছু জায়গায়, বাট অনেক জায়গায় শুনেছি যে সোসাইটি প্রোটেক্ট করেছে। আমি ক্ষমা চাচ্ছি।
Well, here are the demands being made by Hindu groups, protesters, crowds that have come out to actually protest in Dhaka. They've demanded, one, a minority protection law, which has not existed in Bangladesh apparently. Number two, fast-track courts for hate crimes that have taken place not just in the last 7 days, but before this as well. They've demanded a Ministry of Minority Affairs like we have in India. A Hindu religious foundation has been demanded. Modernize the Pali Education Board is the fifth demand. And finally, 5-day holiday during Durga Puja is the sixth demand by the Hindu community, the largely Bengali Hindu community of Bangladesh. Meanwhile, deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's son has refuted reports on an American role in the ouster of his mother, Sheikh Hasina, who has, remember, spent the last 1 week and counting in India on Indian soil. Sheikh Hasina's son has denied statements attributed to Sheikh Hasina, saying that there was a US hand in the Bangladesh crisis. Remember, Sheikh Hasina's son lives in the United States, and that may have something to do with it. He goes on to say that the statement attributed to his mother, Sheikh Hasina, are false and fabricated, and that no statement was made before or since her departure from Dhaka. Well, this after news reports claim that Hasina, who is now in India, as you know, blamed America for a regime change operation by the deep state in Bangladesh, and that she could have remained in power if she had given the St. Martin Island to the United States. St. Martin is an island in the Bay of Bengal. It's a fishing hub. They wanted it apparently for a military base, something that Sheikh Hasina has resisted and not allowed. Reports also claim that Sheikh Hasina's political rival Khalida Zia's party was adamant about giving the island to the United States in return for help in winning elections.
যে জাতির জনক জাতির পিতা বঙ্গবন্ধুর বাসা সেই ঐতিহাসিক ৩২ নম্বরকে পুড়িয়ে ফেলা হয়েছে। এই প্রটেস্টার তো বলবো না, এই মব জাতির পিতার বাসাকে পুড়িয়ে ফেলায়। সেই বাসা যেখানে বঙ্গবন্ধুকে হত্যা করা হয়, বঙ্গবন্ধুর আমার পুরা পরিবারকে হত্যা করা হয়, যেই বাসা ৭৫-এর খুনিরাও ধ্বংস করার সাহস পায়নি, যেই বাসা এখন এতদিন ওনার মিউজিয়াম ছিল, সেই বাসাকে তারা পুড়িয়ে ফেলেছে। বঙ্গবন্ধু একটি দলীয় বিষয় না, বঙ্গবন্ধু হচ্ছেন জাতির পিতা। বঙ্গবন্ধু না থাকলে আজকে আমরা बांग्लादेश होता ना, आज के हमरा पाकिस्तान हुए থাকতাম।
अवामी लीग के जो नेता हैं, जो कार्यकर्ता हैं, आज की तारीख में बांग्लादेश में वो किस स्थिति में है?
কি অবস্থা আছে? পরিস্থিতি এখনো ডেভেলপ না, পরিস্থিতি এখনো যাচ্ছে তাই। এখনো বাংলাদেশ আওয়ামী লীগের তৃণমূল নেতাকর্মীরা অত্যন্ত আতঙ্কের মধ্যে দিনাতিপাত করতেছে। সব নেতৃত্ব তাদের নিজেদেরকে প্রকাশ করতেছে না, সবাই নিজের সেফটির জন্য নিজেরা হাইড করে রাখছে। বিকজ অফ অগাস্টের 5 তারিখ যে বাংলাদেশ আওয়ামী লীগের সরকারকে পতন ঘটানো হলো, তৎ পরবর্তী সময় থেকে আজ অবধি সারা বাংলাদেশে যে বাংলাদেশ আওয়ামী লীগের হাজার হাজার নেতাকর্মীর বাড়িঘর পুড়িয়ে দিচ্ছে, অনেক নেতাকর্মী অত্যাচারের শিকার হচ্ছে, অনেককে হত্যা করা হয়েছে। বাংলাদেশ আওয়ামী লীগের প্রায় কেন্দ্রীয় আওয়ামী লীগের সব পার্টি অফিস থেকে শুরু করে সব পার্টি অফিস পুড়িয়ে দেওয়া হচ্ছিল। একটা আতঙ্কের মধ্যে সবাই দিনাতিপাত করছে।
Is it going to be the end of Awami League?
Geeta Mohan, our foreign affairs editor, is live with us. Geeta, the big claims versus counterclaims of the circumstances under which Sheikh Hasina was forced to leave Bangladesh will continue to be a point of debate and a point of discussion. But the big concern for people here in India is Sheikh Hasina has been here for 1 week and counting now. There's no clarity. That story has gone somewhat cold. The scrum of reporters outside the Hindon airbase seem to have, departed. What's going on? How long is she going to be here? Geeta, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Is that question for me?
Yeah, Geeta, that's for you.
Absolutely, Shiv. This is something that now is a question that's hanging in the air. We do not really know what's going to happen, but the clarity is one that is that this cannot be a permanent arrangement, Shiv. That this has to be a temporary arrangement. The onus lies one on Hasina herself and the Hasina camp to see to it that they find a third country. The second and most importantly is with the cloud that India has right now, that how can New Delhi rehabilitate Sheikh Hasina in a third country? Messaging from Bangladesh Nationalist Party was very important when Fakhrul Islam Mirza, the BNP General Secretary, spoke to India today. He very clearly said that India should think before giving Sheikh Hasina asylum. At this juncture, when New Delhi has to engage Bangladesh, has to ensure that the ties are not absolutely severed, or the relations do not take a complete downturn. At this juncture, it is very important that India pays heed to what is coming from who are going to be the leaders in the coming future in Bangladesh, and BNP, especially Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir, a very important man, saying that asylum for Sheikh Hasina in India is something that India should really think before doing. The question's up in the air, which country she's going to go to. Nobody really knows. We have heard of the United States of America, London, Belgium, Finland, and Dubai. So let's see which country is willing to take her in.
Okay, so she can't stay. She definitely has to go, but where to and when she's going to leave is still up in the air. Geeta, thanks for that clarity. We're continuing to track this story even as the chaos in Bangladesh continues.